listening to the Pasco Podcast with Mike Carballa. Welcome to Season 3 of Pasco Podcast, a series about leadership and public service. We'd like to thank our sponsors, the nearly 600,000 people of Pasco County, as represented by the Board of County Commissioners. It's through their trust and empowerment of our workforce and leadership team that we're able to bring you this podcast. This podcast is designed to help public servants build leadership skills and leverage them for success by sharing the experiences of our peers.
Hi, I'm Mike Carballa. Welcome to our 30th episode of Pasco Podcast. This month, we're celebrating our headset heroes, the men and women of Pasco 911, who are here serving our community 24 hours a day. National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week is in April, and we're honoring several of our team in several different ways for their commitment, service, and sacrifices. Joining us today is 911 Shift Supervisor Matt Hayes and Training Supervisor Brittney Desrosiers. Guys, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having us.
Now, before we dive in, I just want to say thank you for all that you and your teams do. You guys just do a fantastic job. And I tell you, just it is, you know, when you're having your worst day, it's good to know that there's somebody behind the on the other end of that phone to answer the call. And as you guys know, you've been in this industry for a while, I assume, and you know these jobs aren't for the faint of heart. So can you tell us just a little bit about yourselves and how you got into this line of work working here at Pasco County?
I started out, I was in the Air Force for 6 years and did nuclear security. And I was transitioned into dispatch for the nuclear security. And after I got out, I was like, I kind of like doing dispatch. It was a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. So after that, I moved down to Florida with some family and saw they were hiring here. And 10 years later, here I am.
Fantastic. I served some Northern Tier assignments as well.
Up in the Minot, North Dakota.
I was just down the road at the nicer assignment in Grand Forks.
Oh, there you go.
So high rent district compared to Minot. So welcome. Well, thank you for your service and thanks for doing all that. Brittney, how about you?
So I'm actually from Pasco County. Okay. I grew up here and I started in 911 in 2016. And that's pretty much it. I came from an ice cream shop previously.
Okay.
So it was quite the change. I wanted something serious, something with benefits. Something I could do long term.
So, free ice cream's not a benefit here, huh?
It was, but I mean, long term, I don't know.
Yeah, it affects you. Favorite flavor?
Cappuccino.
Oh, good stuff.
I like coffee ice cream.
Fantastic. Well, we're glad you made it over here. So training supervisor now. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do?
So basically, I oversee our CTO program, which is our trainers where they are new hire class. They have classroom training and then they go onto the floor with a trainer. Mm-hmm. So I oversee the trainers and the trainees during their 4 weeks on days and nights. So that's pretty much it.
So it's a long process and a lot of stuff. How long until somebody's able to kind of fly solo?
So they have classroom training.
8 weeks.
8 weeks of classroom typically. Mm-hmm. And then they have 8 weeks of training on the floor. So
Gotcha. So 16 weeks and then getting into taking
so about
calls
4
on
months.
their own. Wow. Okay.
Right.
Fantastic. So what's it like being a leader on the floor of a 911 center?
Well, I'll tell you, it's different because, at least from my perspective, that you have such a wide range of ages. You know, our youngest is 18, just graduated out of high school, and our oldest is almost 60 now. So you kind of have to know how to talk to the different age groups.
Got some generational issues.
Yeah,
right?
That can be quite a challenge sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. How's the busyness? How's the vibe? I mean, how do you keep all that in balance? Because I mean, I've been through the 911 center before, and I guess my description of it is it's humming.
It's
there's always a lot going on. So I mean, how do you keep your calm? I mean, it's such a boy, for all the stuff that's flowing through there.
I bite my tongue a lot.
Okay.
No, I was joking. You just have to kind of put it to the side, and then, if there is a time you need to vent or just let it all out, you got to step off the room and deal with that. But it's plugging this hole to go plug this hole and then go plug that hole. It's constant.
Gotcha. Same question back to you, Brittney. I mean, you're as a trainer, right? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, are you on the floor day to day, or are you kind of on the outskirts?
So
moving
I actually recently left the floor as a shift supervisor to go into training. I do try to make my way out to the floor. I miss it a lot. Just it's constant moving. Like you said, the room's constantly humming.
Right.
There's always something going on. It's constantly putting out fires or on to the next thing, or what information do we need? It's very exciting. But yeah, it can be stressful, but it's rewarding. It's nice to see everybody come together and work together, because you see the calls go from your call taker who's receiving the 911 call to, okay, now it's being routed to the dispatcher. Call taker's still on the line. Now our dispatcher's communicating to either fire rescue or the sheriff's office, and they're asking questions, and it's just a line of communication. And being able to oversee that that's really rewarding, I think.
Yeah, fantastic. So over the course of your careers, right, and so you're leading this operation, right? That is, you're organizing this chaos here, if you will. How do you are there any leaders, positive or even negative sometimes, leaders can affect us, that have kind of influenced your leadership style, I guess, for better or worse? Any role models or folks?
Oh, I'm not going to name drop, but throughout my entire tenure here, I've always picked up nuggets. Like, I like what they're doing, so I'm going to take that. Don't like what they're doing, so I'm not going to do that. So it's been that since, I've started here.
Fantastic. Yeah, fantastic. Brittney, what about you?
I would definitely agree. I think that there is a lot that our leadership throughout the years that I've been here, and our different managers and from our director, Captain Olds, there's a lot of different styles and great leadership skills there. But overall, you kind of pick up what works for you and what you see work all the way through. And hey, I like that. And I might try to do things that way, or hey, I might do that a little bit differently. So
either of you care to share an example of something that works for you with your teams?
You got to be fluid. There's not just one style that's going to fit the entire shift.
I agree.
So how I talk to Brittney is not going to be the same way I interact with you. And it's a lot of that, really. Yeah.
It's important. Situational leadership is a very important skill to have. Read the room, right? I think you even pointed it out. You've got Gen Z to baby boomers still working for you, and kind of understanding how to interact with that is going to be important, especially under the stress that these folks are dealing with. So in the context of when we talk about people, purpose, and performance, what are some things that you guys are doing to kind of help on that people side with relating to the stress that you guys are under?
Well, we do have a CISM team that's really beneficial.
What's that? Just for our
crisis
audience.
Intervention Stress Management, which I think Brittney would be able to explain that just a little bit better than I can. Okay. She is a member.
So I'm a member on the team. So basically, we have a regional team, and then we also have an in-house team. So anytime there's a essentially traumatic call that one of our people experience, which happens quite frequently, we might encourage them to take some time off the floor, take a walk. If they need to talk, we have certain questions and things that we'll go through and just kind of have us talk to us about it. Mental health is a very big deal. It's very important in our line of work. So it is something that we have CISM members spread across pretty much every shift, and then some admin staff. And basically what we do is we talk to them. We don't share anything that we talk about, of course, unless there's something they're going to hurt themselves or someone else or something of that nature. And we notify our operations manager who's in charge of the team, just that we had this communication with someone. They're actually protected by state statute. We don't share anything that we talk about. It's basically just the way that they put it in the class, because we're certified in this. When we take the course, it is mental health first aid. So basically it gets them away from the floor, off the phones, and just to understand what they've just experienced. Because we go from calls back to back to back, where you might have a very traumatic call and something that really bothers you. And if you don't take that moment to take a breath and really understand what you've just gone through, then you kind of suppress it, and things can come up later. So
yeah, I think that tough it out kind of mentality is kind of passé these days, and it's good to see that we push forward with taking care of mental health. I mean, obviously in your line of work, but even across the board in other careers, especially high stress careers. So a lot of challenges that come with that, but there's got to be some rewarding moments, I have to imagine.
Oh, absolutely.
As you go through. Care to talk a little bit more about that?
I could say one rewarding moment. This was years ago. I can't remember the exact years, but it was a mom calling in reference to her daughter giving birth. So we were going through the whole pregnancy issues, and long story short, she did end up giving birth. And I'll tell you, the big old smile on my face is when you hear the crying in the background, but the good crying. You hear the little baby. Right. So that was cool. And even to this day, I still think about I wonder what that kid's doing.
That's fantastic.
That was cool. That was a really neat moment.
That is fantastic. How about you, Brittney? Any?
I would say, definitely the childbirth calls are the most exciting, I think, because it's obviously it's an emergency, but it's a great thing. But ultimately, I think the most rewarding times for me is when there is something very unfortunate or heightened response, and seeing my people just all work together. And when it's all done, I feel such a pride in that team that they all work together, whether they are best friends outside of work or not. Just to see the whole room work together is just, that's the most rewarding.
So you find that helps bond the team better and they work better
Absolutely.
together?
You get those big operations going.
Yes.
First, like say we'll have a big, 2-3 alarm structure fire happen, and just seeing all the dispatchers work together along with all the call takers, and it's just really neat.
Yeah, I mean, as you know, even from your experience in the Air Force, right? Very, very small amount of the force actually flies, and that support group that actually gets there to make sure that those team members
a lot of cogs in the wheel.
There is a lot of pulling together that makes things happen. Obviously, as we continue to fine tune ourselves as leaders, we're always learning. You guys say you're taking bits and pieces from everyone. How do you guys continue to build your leadership skills? Outside of experiences, are there other things that you do to hone that?
I think a lot of it is self-reflection. So like a lot of it could be like, okay, I had a interaction with this individual. Did I do it right? Did I do it wrong? Is there a way I could have done it better? Whether that be discipline, granting awards, or anything like that. So I do a lot of self-reflecting, at the end of the day. Yeah,
that's good advice. Sometimes we don't, life is so frenetic that we forget to pause and reflect, right? And actually learn from what it is that we've done right or wrong.
Absolutely.
Replicate or delete it out of our system here. How about you, Brittney?
I would agree. Some self-reflection. I also recently, actually, it was one of my goals.
Okay.
All of us supervisors actually a few years ago had on our goals to read a specific book.
Okay.
So I have picked up reading, and I like to pick up books on leadership and how to be a better leader. And sometimes there's perspectives that you kind of think, well, yeah, I know that. But then it goes so far in depth that it challenges you in your introspection to think about it further. So I've been doing that the last couple of years. It's
awesome. Care to share any titles maybe that have kind of stuck with you? I mean, everybody's got a little something different. Like you say, I'm the same way. I pick up little nuggets.
The first one that they had us read was Emotional Intelligence.
Oh, okay.
And then recently I read one that was 911 specific, and it was a long title. I can't remember
that's
exactly what it was called, but it was like promoting positivity and people-driven leadership. It's by Adam Tim. It's good.
Fantastic. And as you say, it is all about people. I mean, we are people. We're humans interacting on things, and there's a lot that goes into that. We're always looking for great men and women to work in our 911 system, actually in our first responder system. Can you walk us through, maybe walk us through that process? We kind of talked a little bit about it at the beginning, and maybe dispel some of the myths that might keep people from wanting to start a career in 911?
Okay, so to start, I think once you apply, we send over a link for a critical test. It's basically a dispatcher style exam, and you have to reach a certain score. Then from there, you have your interview. It's a panel interview.
Okay.
And then if you move on from that interview, you go on to an interview with our support services manager, Joel Wilson. And then from there, we request a drug test, a polygraph, psychological evaluation. Am I missing anything?
I don't know. I don't think you are.
I think that's everything.
That's everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think some of the myths that people think is that they have to have an education.
Okay.
Or they have to have experience. And I love to say that I came from an ice cream shop because I had no education, no experience. I came in just from
literally cold from the ice cream shop. There it is.
From the freezer.
And so then when they come in and they get hired, they pass all of that. Then it's the 16 weeks of training that we talk about. I guess that's all paid for. Obviously, you're paid to do that.
We have them in the classroom, and that's where they get all of their certifications. We are certified in the different protocols that we use on the phones. We have CPR, first aid, all of those things we do while you're working. So we provide all of that.
Gotcha. And then you set them loose. What about training as you go, right? I mean, obviously maintaining certifications, different things start to happen, right? I mean, you just look at, how things change, and even in this country, the types of calls that we have to respond to. Thank goodness we haven't had many, say active shooter type things here, but those are things that are becoming more prevalent. Do you how often do you stand down and get, keep people up on current events, retraining, certifications, and all that as you go?
I say we're pretty fluent in getting the updates. We have our operation managers that usually push out an email and say, hey, this is what happened in this state or, in this county. Pass along your shifts just to make sure they're all aware of it. As with keeping updated with like the protocols and stuff, the medical protocols are always changing. There's always a better way of doing something. So those are constantly changing. So you got to be, pretty loose when it comes to learning additional tasks.
Would you guys have any advice that you would give, if there's someone out there listening to someone who maybe wants to have a career in 911?
Just make sure you can multitask. That's huge. It's huge. So
multitasking.
That is a big deal. I would say positivity and flexibility go a long way. It's all about having a positive attitude, and we have to be flexible because you never know what's on the other line. You never know what you're answering. It could be anything.
Right.
It could be scenarios we can't make up. You can't imagine some of this stuff. So I would say positivity and flexibility are huge.
Well, you guys are on my list to come. I'd love to sit down and listen to a few calls as you guys do that. But you guys have a tough job, and we appreciate everything that you do. I've only got a couple more questions for you, and they're very serious questions, and I'm really curious to know about it. Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
Yeah, me too. Dogs. Good answer. Right. Good answer. What's your favorite thing to cook?
Steak.
Nice.
Chicken.
What kind of chicken?
Any kind. I have chicken like every day.
Free roam.
What was your first job?
I was a butcher.
Hence steak.
Ice cream.
Wow. First job, right? So second job. Wow. Fantastic. Go-to snack.
I'll defer to Brittney for that.
I snack a lot. I mean, can we get a category? I love chocolate.
Oh my goodness. Junk food. Just go with it. Yeah.
Yeah. All the junk food.
Okay. Fantastic. And would you rather travel to the past or to the future?
The past.
Past? Why?
I love the 80s. Everything in the 80s was awesome, man.
Very good. How about it?
I think I'd do the past too, but I might do further back. I might do like 1950s.
Oh, look at that. Yeah. Look at you guys. All right. A little nostalgia here today. Well, listen, guys, I want to thank you for joining me today on this podcast. Obviously, what you guys do is of such vital importance. So we thank you for your leadership out there in 911. And we thank you for your team members who do such a great job day in and day out. And special thanks to our media relations team who make this effort possible. And thank you for joining us on this episode of Pasco Podcast. I'm Mike Carballa. We'll see you next time.
For more information on Pasco County government, please visit mypasco.net and check us out on Facebook and Twitter.